Hello everyone, Nick here with the Sage Scrolls, and today we're taking a look at Nukes, Time Travel, and Dragons Part 3. This is a 4-part series. All the other parts should be on my channel. I'll put them in a playlist. I'll link everything that needs to be linked in the description. You should be able to find everything that you need, so you can finish the story with me. With that being said, let's just get straight into this one. Nukes, Time Travel, and Dragons Part 3 by user/Tom with an H. There we were, still processing the sudden and baffling death of the GM's PC, the Dwarf Paladin, when who should enter the room but Torag, God of Dwarves. There were 3 things about this situation that bear noting. First, the highest level party member in the group was 6 at this point. Second, while the party had minor dealings with a fragment of a long-forgotten god in the prior adventure, they had never had any direct contact with a greater deity. Finally, my human fighter, despite being a human fighter, worshipped Torag. He would have starved on the sheets had it not been for his kindly dwarf mentor in his backstory. So this was just like Jesus or Buddha just strolling into the room. Torag told us that he was here for the Dwarf Paladin's soul personally, and that we should seek guidance on our next steps at the nearby temple of himself. I still have no idea why Torag subcontracted exposition at this point, but he did answer a couple of questions, for better or worse. One of them was, why come for this particular paladin yourself? His answer? Oh, I come personally for all dwarf souls. This infuriated my human fighter. There were times he was struggling, barely making ends meet, pleading with Torag for just a crumb of good fortune, and meanwhile this jerk was going to literally every dying dwarf like, "Aw, did you fall down, buddy? Time to go to the afterlife." I even confirmed, like, was it dwarf worshippers? What about worshippers of other races? Nah, just dwarves. They're mine after all. Suddenly, the human fighter is an atheist. The rest of the party, a little relieved that their gods weren't in the room, thanked Torag for breaking the awkwardness and taking away the dwarf corpse. Then he left, the party left, and the halfling ninja we were interrogating was promptly forgotten. Some say she's still tied to that bed. With a concrete goal in mind, the party trotted over to the temple of Torag, marched up to the high priest, and were like, "Yo, Torag sent us back to the past. We're here to change the future." "Oh," the high priest explained, "you can't change the future. It's set in stone. Everything you do here in the past, you already did by the time the future happens." I have never heard a Skype call deflate so fast. The sorcerer felt like an idiot for his inspirational speech. The human paladin felt like an idiot for trying to keep spirits high. The lower level party members were once again asking, "So, why should we be in the town when we know this is about to disappear off the map?" My human fighter especially was reeling, given the 1-2 punch of knowing that his god didn't care about him at all, and that his home and job security were about to evaporate in nuclear fire. Still, the adventure went on. Surely this GM had some kind of plan, right? He had mentioned how hard he had been working on this particular adventure. Epic conclusion? Deus Ex Machina? We needed to see it through, especially since it was supposed to end in 3 sessions total, and this was already session 2? We had no idea how he was going to put a bow on this adventure. The common fear in the private chats was that it might have to go long for a session or 2 to restore normalcy. Regardless, the high priest informed us that each of us had a trial to undergo. This involved approaching a specific door at a specific time, alone. There we would face the trial. These varied in intensity and drama, but the common thread was that we needed to acquire a portion of a stone slab that was situated at the other end of the trial. The sorcerer, being a shadow sorcerer, just kind of shadow teleported over there. The GM was a little deflated, but he had to admit that there were shadows on that end of the room. The gunslinger solved his problem with his gun somehow. My fighter encountered a Hound Archon that he was supposed to defeat in a duel somehow. I threw the GM for a loop again by negotiating with the Hound Archon instead. I promised him that I wouldn't use the slab for anything sinister or evil, and that I needed it to try to right a great wrong. Diplomacy was rolled. Unfortunately, that made things really awkward for the human paladin. You see, his trial was a guardian Naga, a lawful good creature that just refused to yield. The paladin couldn't beat the crap out of the creature, since paladin oaths were a lot more specific and very serious business in Pathfinder 1st Edition. The goddess of beauty didn't want her knights just whipping the crap out of random holy guardians. Add on to that my fighter's recent persuasion passed the trial, and the GM really wasn't keen on letting the paladin do the same thing. So they just sat there for the longest time, with the paladin trying and trying to engage this thing in conversation, and the snake being like, "Go away, you're the bad guy here." Eventually, the GM caved, but it took an inordinate amount of time. Then there was the druid. He misunderstood the GM's instructions? I'm still not clear exactly what went wrong, but he went to the wrong place at the wrong time. He found 3 doors there, one that led to a warehouse, one that led to an old lady's house, and one that led to a small, crappy pawn shop. Important aside here, the reason I was playing a now level 3 fighter was because my previous character had retired following the extraplanar horror campaign and the loss of one of our PCs. I had noted that he was going to settle down in Katapesh and open up a pawn shop, thinking I could use him as a helpful NPC in the future. There was a particular place that I was considering setting that shop which tied back to the very first adventure. The GM had since decided that the pawn shop would be a tiny, dirty shop wedged in a back alley between a warehouse and an old lady. The former PC inside was now completely unhelpful. When the druid explained that the city was going to be destroyed, that one of his friends had just died, and that the party needed all the help they could get, the retired PC didn't care, didn't believe him, or at least didn't help. Nothing. Not even a copper for the story. It sat poorly with all of us, but my morale was cratered. Eventually, the druid got the thing and we put together the puzzle. It was a riddle that told us we needed to follow the map of fire. We puzzled. That meant nothing to us. We failed some knowledge checks. Eventually the GM just had to outright tell us. You know that urn with a fire pattern on it the day my dwarf brought back as a souvenir from Tom with an H's campaign? There's a map on the inside. I interjected, was that map put there before or after the remnant of a dead god hid inside it? The GM was confused. Of course he was. It was just an urn with a neat fire pattern on it, of no real significance. However, unbeknownst to his character, by taking it out of that sealed chamber, he had allowed that small remnant of a forgotten god to leave his prison. It was a plot thread I'd intended to hint about my next turn as GM, and then develop into a full-on quest the time after. But now there was a map inside of it. I needed to reiterate, he was and still is a great guy, but he had, without any malicious intent, squashed everything my past character had going, destroyed everything my present PC had in terms of goals and hope, and tainted the arc I'd been working on for my next turn as GM, which was 2 weeks away, in theory. I was checked out. My fighter was there when initiative rolled, but otherwise, it was just a husk. Still, we trudged back to the dwarf paladin's bedroom, where, presumably, the halfling ninja was still tied up. I say presumably because none of us noted either presence or absence. There, we found and opened the urn, and, on the inside, was a map that led us to the nearest mountain. The next part will be the last. If you're curious how this all ties together and pays off, I guarantee that you're as clueless as we were. TLDR, Dwarf God takes the souls of every dwarf, but doesn't care about all his other followers. Dwarf Priest sends us on a fetch quest that accidentally destroys my investment in the campaign. It's still not over, and we still have no idea what we're doing or why. Now, this one's a little puzzling. I don't think everything the GM did here was intentionally a misfortune for that player. I don't think he was trying to ruin everything, but he ended up doing so. With the Torag, that might be. I haven't really gone through the deities, that's not something I'm too knowledgeable about, but having Torag only like dwarves and being a little bit racist there, that might be true. But that doesn't necessarily mean you have to do that for your campaign. If someone made a character who wants to worship Torag, then show them a little kindness there. That one's a little rude, but also, I don't know, the player should kind of see that coming, I guess? Who knows? That one I'm a little iffy on. But definitely, stealing that urn and putting the map of fire in it, you know, again, I don't think that one was intentional, but that definitely ruined a plot hook for someone who is going to be GMing soon in this round robin of GMing. I guess you wouldn't really know much about whether that was a plot hook, but some more communication when you guys rotate GMs would probably help solve that, saying, hey, don't exactly touch this yet, I'm saving that for my next time go around, you know, try something else, we'll figure something else out. Then there was just saying, hey, you can't change the future, everything you already tried to do happened and it didn't work. I guess you're trying to fit within real time laws and stuff, but you gotta think about it from a player's perspective, you know? You want to keep leading them along a storyline, yes, but you also want to give them chances to affect the world. That's one of the biggest railroads ever, is if you say, yeah, no matter what you do, it won't change the future. It won't. That one's kind of douchey. I don't agree with that there. Trying to keep the time paradox stable. Just let the players do what they're going to do. Then, of course, we have the trials that each one had to pass. I enjoy that. That's kind of cool, testing each character, but make sure they're able to get through it, you know? Find some way that they're supposed to get through it. Give them a couple options even, because you never know what a player's going to think of or try to do. Even if they are a fighter, they might pull out the diplomacy, like he did, and that was a cool move, I guess. You gotta let things flow. Yes-anding is one of the hardest parts of being a GM, is letting someone else run over your world, and if they don't do what you wanted to do, oh well, they're the players. They get just as much say as you do. That poor paladin. It's tough. And then the retired PC being not much help is a little rude when he clearly had an idea for it, but also, that one I'd say, you the player, you gave away that player character sheet, you got a new player character, you kind of have to forget about the old one. Maybe he didn't turn out as successful as you wanted. Oh well, he's no longer your player, you're someone else now. So that one I'll let be a bygone. All in all, just more communication should be done here. So this was part 3 in a 4-part series. I'll have all the parts on my channel in a playlist. Everything will be listed in the description, and you should be able to find it so you can follow the rest of the story if you want to. Tell me what you thought in the comments, and if you like D&D content like my channel, be sure to subscribe for more of it in the future. I read every one of your guys' comments, and it really helps me know what I could improve on, what I need to do differently, anything you feel like that. So with all that being said, I'm Nick from the Sage Scrolls, and I'll see y'all in the next video.